So this is the, I'm just going to read for some notes so I can kind of keep everything in order, so hopefully it won't seem too strict. But this is the third part of a four-part programme that we've called Images and Journeys, and it's programmed in collaboration with service users of Meeting Point Leeds, which is an organisation that provides support and information for refugees and asylum seekers here in Leeds in Armley. So the first two screenings that we did were kind of more workshop-based, really, held at Army Industrial Museum in October and November. And what we did is we watched and discussed a range of artist films and videos, some documentaries as well, as part of a small group, and basically decided or selected a couple of key films that we wanted to then show to a kind of broader public audience here at Hyde Park Picture House. So the first one being today and the second one being in January, I think it's the 17th. So I just wanted to begin by giving a brief overview of what the programme is, or how we've devised it, and just sort of say a few words about the films that we're going to be watching today, and Jill's going to also add to that as well. So I wanted to begin by saying a few words around some aspects that prompted the series, and they're sort of two main interrelated elements. First is kind of images of migration, or the migrant figure, so this question around what it is to represent that figure, and how those images are disseminated and mediated through media or other channels. So this was very much informed by the Syrian film collective Abu Danara, which is an anonymous group, for those of you who haven't heard of them, maybe a lot of you have. A group of people who've put together a short, they've worked collectively and anonymously, and they put a short film out online every Friday. They've been doing that since 2011 or 2010, I think. Late 2010. So these issues in these sort of short films range from sort of short profiles on a Free Syria football team that are based in Egypt, to a woman discussing her work in an orphanage in Syria, to a craftsman talking about the work that he does, all the way to the sort of bombing of the Russian flight over Sinai that happened recently, and the subsequent reactions in Syria. So they consider very much the everyday as it relates to the standard image of Syria that meets the rest of the world as we kind of come across it. So the collective, like many before them, see the production of these counter images as a powerful mechanism for telling a different, varied and expanded, and invariably very complicated story, asking us to think about what place culture might have in a state of emergency, and sort of indeed how such a culture is shaped by and made in reaction to, or a kind of reciprocal relationship, I suppose, with media outlets, so both citizens' journalism and more professional bodies as well. So we're going to watch 4 films today, and you've got some screening notes that we've handed out with you to all of you as you've come in. Rather than sort of talk through each film individually, I'm just going to say a few brief words about the 2 first films, which, so what we've done is we've got 2 earlier films, one from the late 80s and one from the late 90s, and we've kind of couched the more contemporary works that Jill's going to talk about within these 2 films. So Sari Red by Pratima Palmer and Island Race by William Rabin, while formally quite distinct from one another, do take issues of race, travel, and how that might be extended to think about questions around migration, nationalism and nationality through engagements with reportage and kind of observational film work as well. So both works deal with the contradictory aspects of the perpetual movement of the cityscape, but through distinct means of techniques such as sort of sped up observational footage or lyrical kind of poetic voiceover in Palmer's work. So thinking about this movement of the city, but then also the indelible markers of violence as well that's kind of impacted on the cityscape. So I think before I pass over to Jill, I think one of the things that we wanted to make, sort of put front and centre at this screening programme, was this idea of one's right to an image, or one's right to make an image. I also realised in beginning the introduction I didn't actually introduce myself either. My name's Amy, and I've been working with Jill, who runs Pavilion, in the programming of this series. So I'll hand over to you to talk about the last 2.
Thanks, Amy. So as Amy said, the first 2 films kind of give a historical background, I guess, to our contemporary situation, when, again, we see a kind of rising fear against immigrants coming into the UK. And this is something that we really wanted to kind of address and think about how images, what images have to do with the kind of public response to immigration. The third film that we are going to watch is a contemporary work made by the artist George Barber in 2014, which, like Rayburn's film, draws attention to our island nation and the journeys people take to get here. And we watched this film as part of our workshops at Army Mills, and the group did feel particularly keen that this was screened publicly today, given the kind of current urgency of the situation it represents. In the film, made last year, Barber wanted to counter the standard types of documentaries which kind of depict refugees in disempowered situations, and decided instead that it would be interesting to work with a group of his friends who are precisely not refugees and to restage some of the common refugee experiences. And his aim was really to get people who are not refugees to kind of rehearse and think through, to experience, to act out, and in this way to kind of move people maybe outside of their singular point of view, and to do the same with the spectator as well. And Barber is really sort of interested, I guess, in the paradoxes of our global situation, in which, like, many of the world's displaced people struggle to move freely, whereas consumer goods are moved freely all the time around the globe. Finally, we want to screen They Call Us Maids, a domestic workers story, which some of you will have heard a lot about. You might know that Amy and I have had a kind of engagement over the last year or so with a group, Justice for Domestic Workers, which is a group of migrant women workers who work in private homes and are campaigning for their rights and protection in the UK. Over the last year, Leeds Animation Workshop, Terry and Joe from the workshop are here today, have produced a short animation film with us that draws on the experiences of this one particular group of migrant workers. And I guess that the work has been produced as a kind of campaign and educational tool. And since premiering at the Leeds International Film Festival a couple of weeks ago, has already kind of become a live tool for the group, kind of working, who are using it for their modern day slavery campaign. And we just want to say that copies of the film are available to buy. It's really, the idea is that it's used in lots of different kind of contexts to make people aware of these particular issues that domestic workers are facing. So Terry and Joe are here, and or you can speak to Amy and I, and we can let you know about buying a copy. They're very good value DVDs. So the screenings will last for an hour and a quarter today. I'd like to thank Hyde Park Picture House very much for hosting this, and Film Hub North and the British Film Institute, who funded the programme, the hire of the films, and to Meeting Point Leeds for partnering with us. We as always, we wanted to keep the screenings free, so everybody can come. But if you would like to, we are accepting donations, which will be used to support various groups working with refugees and asylum seekers. So there's some donation boxes outside if you'd like to put anything in there. But thanks very much for coming.